9. Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Liftoff.
Liftoff. Liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11. Clear tower. Roger tower.
Welcome to the Alien Pro Podcast. It is Wednesday, October 15th, 2025. I'm Doug. Joining me today is Dr. Andrea Willey. She's and I have to look this up because I'm not very good about unique dermatologist surgeon, Dr. Willey. Years of experience in advanced techniques and innovative technologies to adhere the best aesthetic results, to say the least.
Thank you.
But we're not really here to talk about the business. We're here to talk about the Waterbird Habitat Project, which is a very honorable thing. I've looked at the website. I'm at the river almost every day. I've seen the things that I haven't seen a bird like you. I read the story out. You started where you saw a bird and that died from having fishing.
Well, it was a little more dramatic than that. I was actually kayaking on the river on mile 11, and there was no one out there that day. And it's interesting for this podcast because I actually wasn't planning on going kayaking that day. I was going bike riding. And I was pumping up my tires, and something just kept telling me to go to the river and go. And so I was like, well, I guess I'm going kayaking. So I threw the kayak on the bike and got in there, and there was just no one around. And as I was kayaking downstream, I seen a blue heron fly over me, and there was something dangling from him, and it caught my eye. It's like, what is that hanging? And then I followed him, and he went across the river to the island, and I saw the top of one tree go like this, shake violently, and I said, wait a minute, that's not normal. And so I just started paddling like mad upstream, jumped the bank and climbed over all these felled trees, and there he was spinning and dangling, and I had to run back to my bike and grab my key out of the kayak, or run back to the kayak to have something to cut him down. But then of course I couldn't grab him because you need two people. So I tried to watch where he flew to. He was a little disoriented, but he flew back to where he had come from. And so I went on a search for him and found him the next morning. While I was searching that day, I saw lots of people around, and I tried to say, if you see this bird, call me, and gave everybody my number. And then the next morning I found him, and so I spent the next 3 days arranging a makeshift rescue team because the rescuers weren't available. And we had the gals that I met on the river, the mile steward, Matt Sprutenberg from American River Lost and Found. He was the one that brought his 400-pound net boat and our 400-pound boat and a net gun.
Wow. And
then him and we surrounded it with people on land. The Heron and Egret Rescue was out there and surrounded him. And then I had, of course, closed my office on a dime when they said he can get here. And I'm like, sorry, patients, I got to go. You got to understand it's important. And so Matt and I got in. He was in the boat and I was in the kayak, and I went in front. Now the whole time I'm thinking, he's gonna net me. He's gonna, And then the gun goes off, and he didn't get me, which is really good. But we got the bird, and then unfortunately it died. And the next day, the Heron and Egret folks took it to a bird specialist, and he had a laceration in his esophagus, and so. We're just heartbroken, and went back, Roy and some other folks that were there, and the rescue people, the Heron and Egret folks, and some people on Facebook. And we all just went out that weekend, that Saturday, to see if we could find some gear to clean up, and really just thought that was going to be the end of it. But actually it was the beginning, because what we found was literally hundreds and hundreds of fully intact fish hooks with fishing line and lures, all like on the ground, in the water, and on the trees in the pond. And so, it took like 3 months for me and a couple of gals to clean that out. And then I decided that I should look around for some more. So I did a search of a 3-mile segment of the river, from Harrington to Estates, basically on the whole edge, in the middle, on both sides, and the islands. And that took me, during the first 100 days, I got 100 hooks total. And then I started to understand that this was a much bigger problem than that needed attention. And so, then I just kept cleaning it out, and then of course went to the Fishing Commission and tried to learn a lot about it, talked to, as I was picking up though during that 100 days. So during the first year we got like, I think, 1,250 hooks out of that little segment. And but during that time, while I was picking up gear, I was talking to everyone. I made these little postcards like I gave you, and I'd give them to everybody, and I'd say, if you see a bird in danger, call me, or if you see fishing gear, call me and I'll come get it. But I mainly I surveyed 100 fishermen to say, down in that pond area. It's a 45-acre pond. It takes about 2.5 hours to go around the whole circumference of all 3 ponds. And I was doing that, several days a week for a year. And then in April, when the bird deaths went up, I started going every day for a while. But I would survey the fishermen, say, have you seen a bird? Are you aware of this problem? And most of them were aware of it, but and they didn't associate it with their gear. That was what I learned from the survey, is like that, they understood that they get snags in the water, but they can't retrieve them because they don't want to go in and get wet. And so they leave it, but they don't understand that because the bird flies away when they're fishing, they don't see the bird there. But as soon the bird's hungry, has to eat often. Right. So as soon as the fisherman leaves, the bird comes back to eat, and it gets them. And or it's not just birds; it's beavers, turtles, otters, and all sorts of anything. That we've even had a deer go in to drink out of the water and get a lure stuck on his chin. I mean, it's anything, and the hawks. We had a Swainson's hawk that got hung in a tree for 12 hours, and a cormorant that was stuck out in the middle. I mean, there's just, but so I think about, when I started to understand, okay, the fishermen, they just need to know about this, right? So I designed this sign and went to the county and got a permit to put it up, and they started putting up the receptacles with the sign. And the river people, Amy's Hardware, was helping mount the signs and for me. And the river people, I call them the river warriors, all the people that I met down there, they would help me maintain them, and they started pinging me with when they'd see gear, find gear, they'd send me pictures. And so that's when I realized that it's really great, because if you can get the community involved, because I can't be there every day all the time, but if you can go to a place and really educate everyone that's there, and they can kind of maintain it. So once that started maintaining itself and the bird deaths started going down, we had, I think, 12 or 14 in the first year additional animals that got hurt during that time, and most of them died. I think we saved one. We saved 2 maybe, but most of them died. And but the after that, then the people, the community that they're walkers like yourself,
right?
And they, and I'd tell them what I was doing and give them my card and say, if you see some gear, message me. And then they started sharing their stories. Oh yeah, I saw an egret up on mile 10. I saw one. I'd get a lot of reports at William Pond and Sailor Bar at Turtle Pond. We had. So then I started thinking, okay, I've got to, once that was kind of stabilized, my next move was to go up to Turtle Pond at Sailor Bar, where there was an egret that was known to have died the same way, hanging in a tree there. One of the bird researchers mentioned it to me. So we went out, and it was really interesting, because sure, there was lots of gear on the ground and in the trees, but there's one tree that is laying on its side. It's about 20 feet long. It's huge. It must have fell over in a storm or something. And it's perpendicular to the casting, the favorite casting spot. And it just, I went out there, I was just on a whim thinking, I bet you that has gear on it. And just went in the water up to my shoulders using sticks to kind of balance. And sure enough, there were tons of gear in there. And the first day there, I got 350 hooks in 5 hours, balancing up and to my shoulders in that pond. And then went back another day. In total, we've had about, I think, 750 hooks out of Turtle Pond. But so then I went back to the county, and we're certain, we make friends with the fishermen, and we try to provide the snag retrieval service and get the community involved with the gear pickups. But sometimes, I said, we got to get this tree out of here. This is just a nuisance. If we could get the tree out, we could manage this area. And they said, good luck. And they said, we think you should try to change the fisherman's behavior. And I said, good luck.
Well, how do they, I guess I have to ask them, if there's a card.
Yeah.
I'm going to show it here.
Most of them email me, because early on we have a Facebook page,
Yeah.
and so they can message on Facebook, or they'll email me, waterbirdhabitat@icloud.com.
And there's the QR code as well.
And now the QR code goes to the website, and every page of the website has a button that says report gear.
I saw
and
that.
it has the longitude and latitude. They can upload photos and whatnot.
And that's the waterbirdhabitat.org. But it'll bring you right to this.
Yeah,
and we'll
that would.
Can we get a supply of these? Or,
Definitely, absolutely. Yeah.
Because I was wondering what the reaction of it, because you go walk up to a random fisherman. Sometimes they don't even want to talk to you anyway. But,
yeah.
Hey, I just wanted to...
I think in the beginning it was tough. I think there was some animosity. Of course, I was upset because the birds were dying. I bring them my cell phone and show them the picture. This is what happened yesterday here, and but it really didn't take long. They really loved the snag retrieval service. And now, what we're doing now, so with Turtle Pond, what we ended up doing there is the county, we partnered with them, and we planted some willow trees in front of that so they couldn't cast there anymore. And it's helped a lot.
Oh, good.
But in the meantime, and so then we shifted up to William Pond, which I'll tell you what we did there was pretty cool. But with the anglers, we are kind of at this point, it's 2 years into it, we're in our third year. We've had so much success, and really the long-term solution has nothing to do with picking up gear or all this. It really needs to come from the source, which is the anglers. So
education.
Yeah, so we view ourselves as an angler group, and I introduced myself to the anglers as an angler group, and our whole goal is to bring anglers into our group to help us with our cause, and they've been wonderful. We had the anglers actually, I couldn't get permission to put a sign in a spot where a lot of the salmon fishing is going on right now, because the county has places where they'll put the receptacles, but they have to be in areas where their maintenance people go. But that's really not where a lot of the fishing takes place. The fishing is down,
By the bank.
Yeah, and so these fishermen said, I don't have permission to do it, but I'll give you one if you want to do what you want with it. So they actually put it up. They maintain it. They send me pictures of all the stuff that's coming out of it. And we've had some events this last summer. We had a magnet fishing event, and the fishermen join us with that.
Oh, wow.
We're planning one coming up soon at Sailor Bar, where there's a lot of fishing.
Is that
up
where
there.
they throw the high power magnet with the rope and all that?
Yes.
Do they get a lot of hooks that way?
It depends on the location,
Or lures,
right? So the magnet party, we call it magnet party. Magnet event we had, so William Pond was another place where, I don't know if you've been there much, but they have a fishing deck, which is, people love it.
The handicap deck.
Yeah, the handicap deck, but it has overgrown, the water primrose took over the whole pond, and I kept getting a lot of reports about dead birds there. So, we went out on kayaks the first day, and you can't even get your oar through because there's so much fishing line in that plant. It's laden with fishing line and hooks. Yes, and so I went out there with one of the volunteers, and once we saw how bad it was, and then one of the guys from American River Lost and Found, who actually lives down the street from you.
Oh, really?
Carl Bly said, Andrea, you can't just get the gear out. You got to get the plant out. And I said, okay. So I consulted some folks with the Creeks Council and the River City Waterway Alliance. They have a geologist there who's done this type of work before, and we brought him out, and he had a lot of ideas, scoping it out and where the difficulties would be and how hard it was going to be. And I said, okay, I'll see you Sunday. And so we met him and Carl and Mark from River City Waterway Alliance, and Roland and I, just the four of us, went out there on a Sunday. And this was in November, so it was very cold. I had a wetsuit on. And again, there were all the reasons why this was going to be difficult. And I just, we were planning on using a winch and stuff that we didn't have. And so I just hopped on my paddleboard and I just went out there and just started ripping it up. And
they've been down to, I'm sure you've been down there. They cleared some of it.
Well, that's me.
Well, they had a whole group of.
Yeah, that's me.
You
so
guys?
We partner with. So the way it went is, so that was in last November.
Yeah.
We got, the four of us, that one Sunday, we got 3,000 pounds of primrose out. Then we came back with volunteers from the River City Waterway Alliance and my group and the fishing line pickup group. There was just maybe 12 or 15 of us. Yeah. And we spent 2 more volunteer days and we got 9,000 pounds of plant out. And that's where I was like, okay, so we got it cleared right out in front of it, but I'm like, this is a big job. So that's when I approached the California Conservation Corps.
Yes, they came out. That's the ones, right?
We partnered with them and we got a contract and a permit with the county, and they spent the entire month of June out there, and they, during that time, removed 40 dump trucks full of primrose.
We
and
were
it's
there
completely laden with gear, and they're still out there. They have we have a contract throughout the year, and we have a boat that was donated by the River City Waterway Alliance and the Creeks Council that was actually found on the river and donated to the CCC. And we provided them with I gave them a lock for it and some skiffs. And so now they just lock up the boat under the deck. And whenever they have an opening in their schedule, so they were out there for a week in August also. And the news team has been out a couple times. Channel 40's had us on, and they've been getting a lot of press for it. And so we had so much success at William Pond that now the Creeks Council and River City Waterway Alliance has engaged them to help with the creeks, like Steelhead Creek. They're just doing that this week. It's unbelievable how that water is flowing. That's not a fishing gear problem, but it's a salmon spawning problem, and so they're now clearing out those creeks, and so William Pond was a great success with that fishing deck, and the county is actually going to take over. And I think they're going to use some type of herbicide to put it to an end finally, once we...
Good, because it's really bad there. I mean, and then where you launch the kayaks down, as you look at it down on the left, you go down the hill, they cleared out down there,
Yeah,
too.
That was our first... That's where we started.
That was great
with
if
the
you can
Corps.
get in there. Because I'm a fisherman.
Uh-huh.
And I have to tell you, I haven't fished in years, but I just got my license, ironically, a couple weeks ago. I haven't been out yet.
To get it electronically?
No, I work at Big 5.
Oh, okay.
So that's my retirement job.
Okay.
So I work part-time at Big 5. So it's fun. But, I get to talk to fishermen, hunters, and things. And it's something I've done with my dad years and years. But I have to say, as a kid, when I was fishing, and I grew up in the Bay Area, down in Castro Valley. And they had a Lake Chabot, and I spent many hours fishing down there, and I left many pieces of line and hooks and lost and never really gave it a thought about what could happen. Not one thought about what could happen and to wildlife. Oh, well, I lost my gear, so what?
Right.
My wife, when she walks, and I walk with her, but she usually gets it before I do. She'll pick up, she sees a line or lures, and pick it up. But is it okay to put it in the garbage can, a regular garbage can?
Well, you can, but it's the receptacles are nice because that's a program where if it's one of my receptacles, I'm tracking it to make sure that we're
They're
effective.
not everywhere, though. I've seen them, but I just haven't seen them.
Yeah, it's usually groups putting them up. The county will put them up in any of theirs where it's requested, and we've got, I think, over 25 up right now. And then I also have a sponsorship program so people can collect donations and sponsor one that's outside of the county. So we've got, I think 3 or 4 now that are outside of the county that are in Sacramento City parks that I've gotten a permit for. But when you use the receptacles, it's part of a recycling program.
Right.
And so it gets recycled. But the main thing is like, I think in the trash, the problem is like the raccoons and stuff eat out of that trash if it's not emptied regularly. But either way, just getting it off the ground away from the animals.
But if you put it in the trash too, it'll get thrown away in a trash dump, and then something goes to the trash dump, and then it gets.
Well, and the birds are there too, but
we'll try to use the receptacles.
It's good. And if you know of a place where you need one, you can let us know and try and take up some donations, or we'll try and raise some money. And we had, it's just the receptacles have been amazingly effective. But it's just, so the issue is that this isn't unique to the river or the ponds or lakes here in Sacramento. I mean, this is throughout the world, actually. In fact, there are divers in Wisconsin that get hundreds out every time they go out. And we've had divers here in the Sacramento River, too. The American River Lost and Found helps us do diving days where we go out and get the gear. But the bigger goal of the Waterbird Habitat Project is because, there's another group, Project Pickup Fishing Line. They're affiliated with the Rescuers, California Wildlife Encounters, and they're the ones that are doing a lot of the pickups outside of the river, and they actually go to the river too, but they will be so busy picking up gear and rescuing animals, but someone really has to try to come up with a longer term solution with awareness. So what we've been trying to do is partner with Fish and Game and the Fishing Commission, and they've encouraged me to do a statewide awareness campaign. So that's what we're working on now. We have an advisory board, and we're just working on that. It's a very big, and just to get started on it because it takes so much, it's going to take a lot to put that together throughout the state of California. But I came up with just to get it moving, just to get it off the ground, to give me something to talk to the fishermen about. We call angling for the ecosystem. And we asked the fishermen if they'd like to be an angler for the ecosystem and take 5 to keep the water birds alive. And I give them the little card, and I say, after you're done fishing, if you could just take 5 minutes to clean up your area. And they love it. We really don't get anyone that doesn't just want to be part of this and want to be involved in the pickups. And the fishermen, they start pinging me. They'll send me pictures of their fish and their gear that they picked up,
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really amazing. Honestly, it's really the best. And the best was when they asked for the receptacle and then showed me the picture of it after 1 week full of gear. And so I know it's working,
Good.
It's really
How do
great.
They recycle it?
It goes to U.S. Boating and Waterways.
Yeah.
They do it. And the county, they collect it, and then I think every quarter or something they'll send it in, and then the stuff that I'm tracking I'll bring over to the county so that they can include that, because they have to show that it's effective. That's one of the problems, is that unfortunately the literature hasn't been able to demonstrate that a lot of this stuff works. But I have been able to, and same with the fishing line pickup group, because what I think the issue is that you have to pick up enough in order to, you've got to outpace the bird, essentially, or outpace the fisherman, right? So if they're still leaving it on the ground and you don't have enough people participating, then you've got to do a frequency that's going to show efficacy. And we've been able to achieve that by staying in confined areas until it's kind of maintains itself, and then move on to the next place, show a longer result.
So they get stuck in the logs, they get stuck in the reeds, they get stuck. I mean, I've seen it. I've walked there, and it gets wrapped around. So you just wade out there and pick it up?
I go out, I have a paddleboard and a wetsuit and a long rake, and I have a fruit picker is my favorite tool. The fruit picker is the best. You can stand on the paddleboard and get stuff out of the trees. You can do it from shore as well. When the water goes down, I go out in waders and do the whole circumference. Or what I was doing last week when I got injured is there were some logs that have always been below the surface. I know where they are. So that's how I know where to go. and because I seen it when the water was down. And so when the water's high, I know where that log is. I know where they're getting snagged, and so I can just go out there on the paddleboard or, and use my tools and just comb the sides of the log, or just jump in and just balance on the.
So they're hooked in there. How do you get them out?
Yeah, you gotta pull them. You gotta pull them out, and they're
you have
they're
a tool
hooked
that
in
you
there.
use to do that.
My hands.
You can get it undone with your hands.
With my
you got strong
hands. Yeah, with my hands. And, there's a lot in the trees. The fruit pickers help with that, and obviously on the ground. But it's, the birds get caught in the trees for sure on their wings, the aerial birds, the hawks and all of that. But from the last 2 years, what I've witnessed is that the worst tragedies happen from the stuff below the surface, because those birds eat fish. Okay, so do the otters, and there's all the diving ducks, as well as the herons and egrets and the cormorants, and so they gotta eat. They eat and that's when. And so we had one of the volunteers sent me a picture where she was picking up gear out of the river from her paddleboard, and she pulls it up, and it was a lure on a fishing line with a fish attached to it. But that was perfect, because that demonstrates how it happens.
Yeah.
The lure is in the water. The fish actually gets onto the lure. It's rare. The bird will know it's not a fish most of the time, because they're savvy. They have good eyesight, and they're looking for movement. And so it's when the fish goes on the lure, and then the bird eats
the fish and the lure.
Yeah, so we're on a mission to clear the depths of the surface. So this summer we had our first, again, Matt Sprutenberg went out there, and we had a surface team, and he has an underwater scooter, and he would dive in areas where he knows fishing gear accumulates, and would dive down, and we would meet him on the surface. And we covered like a 2-mile stretch of the river from the PCA bridge down to, I think, Rossmore. And we just got a box full of gear in that day. And so after that, I realized that, okay, what I really need to do is I need to understand, I've seen gear go past me in high flows, so it's catching on trees if you know where they are. Otherwise, it's going to hang up in certain areas and accumulate. So I recently got an underwater drone, and we're learning how to use it our plan is to survey the river and identify the areas where it's accumulating, so that we can then have targeted areas where we clean it out regularly. So last September, and the reason why we did that diving day, diving for the water birds, we called it, we did it in that specific area because right in that area, American River Lost and Found was out there getting their cell phones, and they found a beaver that had been tethered by fishing gear by his tail and essentially died of exhaustion in the middle of the river because he couldn't get loose. So that's why we did that, and I'm just determined that we just need to identify all the places where it's accumulating, and it's not that hard to figure out. I mean, you can see the fishermen standing on the PCA bridge, and we now have a couple signs and a receptacle up there, and you can see in high flows where it's going down, but where it caught was like downstream to the right, where it's just where the flow is lower, or where there's something there to catch it.
Right.
So Alan, the person that I mentioned to you at the Shepherd Rescue, him and I have put our minds to this. He's also a very brilliant scientist, and we were thinking to take a piece of fishing gear and put a tracker on it, and just try to see where this is going. A lot of it's obviously going to make it all the way out to the Delta or the ocean, or wherever it's going, and certainly to the Sacramento River. And we have rescued some birds that got tethered in the Sacramento River, but I have not gone to do gear pickups there. I noticed that there's another group, the Project Pickup Fishing Line, that gets just tons of gears out of these ponds and lakes. And I saw this week they ventured off to the Sacramento River. I've been reluctant because I know it's going to be a big. Yeah,
that's big. That's much bigger.
It's going to be a big one, you know. And you don't want to take it on until you're ready to kind of master the whole thing.
It can be a little dangerous too down the Sacramento.
Is it?
Yeah, it's a little higher flow there.
Is it?
And it's bigger, it's wider.
Okay.
So the American's still sketchy too, can be. You've been in it.
It can be. I mean, we had in July, 4th of July, that weekend, there was 5,500 CSF was the flow. It was a high flow. And unfortunately, someone at FEA had messaged the rescuers that there was a cormorant down there that had fishing gear coming out of its mouth and was in distress.
Yeah.
And so I said, well, I'll go out and, see what I can do. I found it right away, and I had to, basically follow it for 4 hours until the rescuers could come out, and the high flows on my paddleboard. And then I had to put one of the rescuers along with his big net gun, that was very heavy, and try and get him across the flow to where the bird was on the other side, So the flows can be really high. I'm very used to it. I grew up here and I'm very comfortable with it. But some of the rescuers that were out that day were a little troubled by the flow. It can be very dangerous if you don't know the river and
absolutely.
how to you're not accustomed to it or spend a lot of time on it. Know where those danger spots are.
I kayak. I kayak, and then but Nimbus is the only place I've been, up in Nimbus Lake. I haven't ventured into the river or at William Pond. Yeah, William Pond's it's not too bad in there, but there's a tributary that goes from the river that comes down and it comes into a pond, and then it flows down into
we
William
call that
Pond.
the clay banks.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, we call it the clay banks. And that one, the water actually, when it's high, it has a very fast flow, and you can hit some trees and whatnot. I've done it many times. I got pitched off the board a few times. But if the water's low, it'll hit a rock and you'll get pitched off. It'll stop suddenly and you'll go. But it's beautiful back, and there's just tons of fishing gear back in
unfortunately,
there.
Well, I'm going to be keeping my eyes out for that now. My wife does anyway. She just picks it up.
Oh,
she puts it in her pocket.
Good for her. Well, she should start messaging me where she's finding it, so we can be aware.
I'll definitely give her. I should have had her in on this. I didn't think of it.
Yeah.
But that's a really noble effort. I mean, my brother-in-law works for the state boating and waterways. I'm curious as to what, if anything, their involvement. But absolutely, if I can get a bunch of these, because we're there all the time, and I don't mind. I'm pretty outgoing. I don't mind walking up to a random fisherman and go, hey, are you where? Yeah. And then you can send me some pictures of the things that can happen.
Yeah, and you'd be surprised. A lot of fishermen might be familiar with it. We I do a lot of. I try really hard to talk to as many as I can, and a lot of them go to different places on the river. But U.S. Boating and Waterways has been great. They are the ones that showed us how to do the receptacles and how to do that whole program. But the other thing they did is I contacted them when we went to get the primrose out of the William Pond, because they have some experts on that plant removal throughout the Delta, but their jurisdiction kind of ends.
That's what my brother-in-law said. He goes, we don't go. He said, hey, can you get that stuff out of William Pond? He says, no, we don't go up. But, that isn't us.
Yeah, Chief Edward Hale, I think is his name. Chief Eddie, he was amazing. He talked to me for a long time about how to approach the problem at William Pond, and it gave us some just really great advice on how to address that. And like I said, now they're carrying it out into other creeks throughout Sacramento. So
there's an actual machine that you can contract.
There is.
And that's what my brother-in-law is like, the state will never pay for that.
Unfortunately, Chief Eddie just told me, quite frankly, he cannot. I actually was trying to raise the money for that machine. I was going to try and get a grant for it for the county so they could keep it and have their own. Right. But Chief Eddie said no, because that thing kills every bit of aqueous life, fish, everything. It kills it all. And you'd have to do herbicide anyways, because the plant just regrows. Yeah, so he has another project he was doing down in Mendota Preserve, I guess is the name of it, where he's got a drone that can apply the herbicide in so accurately and so precisely that it'll only hit the tops of the plant and not get in the water. Right. But then you still have to go back and clean the plant out. But I think, again, he's advising Sacramento County Parks and for the area. We've cleared the fishing deck, so at least they can fish and not kill water birds. But there's still a lot that needs to be done. The county consults with him also to make sure they get that out properly according to protocol.
Yeah, I
that.
mean, before they cleared the plants, I would go in there and say, I want to go fish in here, but I can never fish in. I'm not going to throw my line in those plants because I know what's going to happen.
Thank you.
Well, I just know it's going
Thank you.
Without even knowing this. I know I'm going to get snagged. All fishermen hate get snagged. We lose our gear.
Yes.
And bait.
Yes.
And I use worms.
Yes.
I'm like a 4-year-old. I use like, a bobber and, a hook and, but I've lost tons of gear myself. I know how much I've lost.
Yeah.
When I fished avidly, throughout my, younger years and thought nothing about what could happen.
Well, that's fairly common, I think. I mean, a lot of them, the ones who really know Eagle Scouts, there's a lot of fishermen who are Eagle Scouts and they know all about it. But I'd say a lot of people were like yourself and just didn't know. And the other thing is, like, one of the things I tried to show the county is that, and the river groups that I speak to around town, is that, like, when you go out to Turtle Pond, it's beautiful, the top of the water with the sun glistening on it, and you have no idea what's under there. And all I had to do was just go under there and stick a rake in it, and I literally pulled up just a clump of gear, and the end of the pond on mile 11 was the same, and they're not always that bad, but Turtle Pond was that bad, and it's shocking when you look at the photos how pretty it is. But again, because when you're losing it, it's under the surface, so you don't understand it. We literally have discovered a century's worth of fishing gear that has accumulated in the river.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's like unbelievable what's under there.
Yeah, they've been fishing there. They have been for hundreds years.
Yeah, I mean, I tried, like 135 years is when modern fishing gear started to be used on the American River.
Is that when it was?
Yeah, I mean, before that, I mean, the salmon back in the historical days, will like before the gold rush or during that time period, the salmon was so plentiful. The Indians, you can see lots of pictures of them just taking a spear and they would just stab a salmon. It wasn't until, again, I did a little research, and about 135 years worth of fishing gear has been accumulating in the river. Again, a lot of it's getting washed out, but a lot of it's just snagging on trees below the surface. And other things that are down there, plants, because there's a lot of plant life. When the flows, the water management in California is very complicated, but with these low flows, the plant growth is enormous, and those plants catch a lot of gear. So it's kind of... So
volunteering, I noticed, I didn't see a direct, I went to the website. I mean, how do you volunteer to help?
Yeah, we basically announce events that we're going to do, and we've had many of them, or people just message me, and it's like the best way to volunteer is just pick up where you're at.
Right.
So, one of the things that makes my approach a little different is that I really am a firm believer that we need people to stay in one area and consistently keep it clear, because otherwise I've noticed that if there's heavy fishing, you'll have a bird die within 2 weeks, and so I'll have to make sure I go out or someone else goes out at least every week during April, May, and June, otherwise we'll start seeing bird deaths. And then again, it picks up again in January with the winter fishing. And so the best thing to do is just pick up where you are or do one of our events, or if people want to get more organized, I always just say, just email me or message me on the website, and we'll get more organized. Lately, we've been spending our time trying to utilize the drone so that we can organize events to be more effective. But again, I was just out picking up in Sailor Bar a couple weeks ago. The rescue team actually called me to come out, and they wanted to share with me what they had found. They had been picking up just tons and tons of gear out there in an area that I had never been to. It's across from Turtle Pond on the other side. It's called Frank Cyril Recreation Area. And they had found a bat hanging. It's like the third or fourth bat this year, I think, that it's hanging where someone got a snag in a tree, left it there in the tree because they didn't want to get wet or go get it, or couldn't go get it. And then the bat had the hook in its body or neck and then all around it. And they wanted to show that to me. And so I went out there and picked up a little gear while I was out there, just mainly talked to a lot of people while I was there to say, hey, this is going on. And sure enough, one of the girls says that she has a magnet she uses out there all the time. And I said, well, let's do a magnet party. So we're going to do that at some point in the next few weeks. We'll announce it. And it's really been driven by the information we receive from the community about where the birds are dying, or the beavers or bats and turtles. We've had turtles. So whenever we find, that's what's guided me so far, is where the animals are dying,
right?
Or where we know there's heavy fishing, and that's what kind of. But I was hoping the drone would allow me to really survey the river and be a little more organized about it. And then the long-term vision would be that we would have teams, kayak teams, that we could assign different segments of the river. And the only issue with that is that, there is some liability involved. And so then you've got to kind of figure out how you're going to navigate that liability. So that's why I've kind of been real loose about the volunteering at this point. It's like people can... I like to stay connected, but I don't want to be...
I can see where that could be a problem.
Yeah, unless if we're having an event, I can have everybody sign a waiver. But if you say, I want to volunteer, I'm going to go out here and volunteer for the Waterbird Project, and then
something
you get
happens.
Injured. Yeah, because some of the stuff we're doing, again, in my mind, the most dangerous stuff is under the surface in the water, and there isn't too many people who can handle those high flows. Again, I feel the divers are good at it. I grew up in Fair Oaks, and I've been on this river since I was a kid. Aside from this freak accident that happened last week, I manage myself pretty well on the river, and I know where the drownings are, so I know to stay away from those areas. And but it's not something I'd want everyone doing. Especially we have tons of little kids that want to join us, and that's can be wonderful. Sketchy, yeah. So we keep, but even them, we had Country Day Monarchs. They're a group of young children at the Country Day School that contacted me. They want to partner with the Waterbird Project. So went out and talked to them, and they're amazing, like between 10 and 14, But even then, even if we go out on the river, we can play with the drone, we can do pickups. But then you don't even want the children. These hooks are very sharp. I can't tell you how many times I've been hooked. So I have a lot of concern about safety with the volunteers. And so it's just trying to figure out the magnets work. That event was probably one of our most successful, and I felt pretty good about it because all they're doing is tossing a magnet in. And as long as they keep the magnet away from their phone, or they don't hit someone with it,
right.
It's pretty, that's going to go pretty well.
Does it damage the phone if you get it near the phone? Or
if the bigger magnets, yeah.
Really?
We had the American River Lost and Found donated, Matt and Carl both donated a big couple of boxes of them. So I think I had, almost 20 something magnets to offer people to use. And some of them are big, really powerful, and that'll wipe out your phone. Any electronics you don't want to get around the magnet, But some of them are smaller for the children. They can use these littler ones that are less problematic. But we had a few toss it off the fishing deck. So we went out after the Conservation Corps had cleared the deck to see if there was anything left after they got the plant out. And I thought, well, this is going to be great. And we actually didn't get that. I was surprised. There was enough. Some gear came out, but it wasn't astronomical. Like, we got a lot more out with the plant than we left behind. And so, but it still was a fun event. And proof of concept wise, it's a great event for people of all ages. The feedback on that magnet event was probably the best of anything we've done. That people just loved doing it. It was super fun. It's just a hoot. You just go out there. It's like, and you get something, and
I think the education for the younger, and that's in a lot of things in the world. As long as the younger people understand, I see kids come in their first time fishing, first time, we don't sell real guns anymore, but we sell air guns, and and then. Kids starting out with baseball, they see the joy, just because it's doing something. I work somewhere where people are having fun. They're going to do something fun.
Yeah.
But I think the education of the younger generation in many areas, not only this, is important.
Yeah.
Because they fall into, like I did when I was a kid, that's bad habits. I don't remember my dad honestly picking up. Yeah, if he had, we used to trout fish all the time.
Yeah.
And I don't remember if he had a problem or a snag. I don't remember. It would break off, and I don't remember any, effort being made to try to get any line out or go and get it. I've had it where I'd be crappie fishing and by a tree, and it would get stuck up, and I just cut it. It'd be hanging there.
Right. That's
the
how
lure's
they get
still
it.
sticking
Correct.
up there.
And that's how the birds get tethered to the tree.
I feel bad now because I spent my childhood carrying.
I think that's common, so that's really what we're trying to do. We've definitely had some meetings with Fish and Game about their Fishing in the City program and asked them to include this. I've given them the sign, the diagram of the sign, and they said they apparently use little rubber duckies to try and talk to the kids about it. But I think it needs more than that. What my goal was, long term, what I'd really like to see is that when you go to get your fishing license, it's electronic. So a lot of people there was a law passed a couple years ago where they have electronic.
Yeah, I've done that before.
Literally just have a thing like they do for hunters where you have to watch a little video on it before you can proceed to the next thing, or check a box that says you understand that leaving your gear behind it. Well, it's not only illegal, but it's dangerous for the animals. But when I presented that to the Fishing Commission, again, they, I think their reluctance is they don't want to do anything that's going to interfere with the sale of fishing licenses. I mean, we just have to be honest about that. But that isn't something that I've given up on. They really put it back on me and said, Andrea, we'd like you to do a statewide awareness campaign. So I'm trying to take that on, but they initially were going to help us, and then they backed out at the last minute due to budgetary resources. And so we're trying to do it on our own, but it just takes me a lot longer. As you know, I work full time, and so it's something I have to do on my weekends in between all the other stuff. And but ultimately, I do think that legislation should help if we can just have for awareness. The legislation would just be saying that. Well, I think a few things would help. One is anywhere where you have fishing promotion by the Fish and Game, you should have a receptacle and a sign. I just don't understand why they don't have that. Just like anywhere where you have people recreating, you have a garbage can. Why isn't it, if you're promoting a fishing access site, why you wouldn't have a receptacle and a sign there? I think that should happen. And I think, again, when you get your license, there's no reason why you can't acknowledge awareness of the problem and promote good stewardship of the river.
It would be a very simple thing for them to add that to that process. I don't think budgetary constraints should be a consideration to not put that.
I mean, and they may not, say that out loud, but I understand how the world works. Yeah. And, I've really felt that, and then you just start working from the other end of it. Just get to know the fishermen, and that's just been really helpful too. The fishermen actually feel like they already pay a lot for their licenses.
Yeah, $60.
Yeah, I've had some people say, I had one person come to one of my booths at an event and say he used to work for Fish and Game and that he thinks that they should add on a tax to provide for pickups or cleanups. I mean, there's been so many ideas, but my goal is to, first of all, publish a paper to show that what we've done is effective. And then to pursue, obviously the statewide awareness campaign, but then to pursue legislation that might be helpful in the long run. But you have to do the groundwork first, because you have to be able, if you're going to support legislation, you have to be able to show that what you're doing, that it's a real documented. So one of the problems, and why probably you didn't know about it when you were young fishing, is that all of these animals that are dying and getting injured, they go unreported. The vast majority die. They suffer. It takes about 3 days where they get starved to death or get eaten alive while they're tethered. That is what kind of goes on. There are some volunteer rescuers that are affiliated with the rehab places in each county. They donate their time. California Wildlife Encounters with Ben Knuckles is probably the legendary rescuer for the last 30 years in this area, everything from Tahoe to San Francisco, and he gets about 1,200 calls a year for rescues over 300, I think, or 350 are fishing line injuries. But again, most of them go unreported or die. The places that, if they did survive and made it to a rehab facility, which most don't, they're actually, until recently, aren't required to document how they died. So the mode of injury isn't something that's typically documented, and so this just goes on, and it's untracked, and it's so, I've encouraged the rescuers to report the injuries. But the problem is that, again, if you've ever been involved in a rescue, they take days, you're up night, it's hours, and then if you do rescue them, you got to keep them alive and feed them and get them to somewhere.
Yeah.
The last thing on their mind is reporting it, so they do keep track of it, and I think we will probably sum up all of our information and present it when I report it. When I got this injury, I was down for a few days, so I decided to just get on the internet and start reporting to Fish and Game all the ones that I had this year, because
right.
Basically got an email back, and they said, hey, you should report that to county. They're the ones that are handling this. And I said, yeah, well, I'm already working with the county with the receptacles and signs. Again, it's one of those areas where people really just want to it's a gray zone where they want to kind of toss responsibility about. And
how do you get the word out other than just with the cards? And do you have an email list or anything?
I need one. I need more volunteers. We need a newsletter. We need the website just went up like a month or two ago.
It's a good website, though. Whoever did that, they did a great job.
Thank you. Yeah, we worked really hard on it, and I know I need to do a newsletter. That would be great, but I've really shifted focus from the organizing volunteers towards partnering with anglers, because I do think that's where
the grassroots.
That's where it's going to go. And so there's just been this shift ever since the website went out to just spend all of my efforts getting that river surveyed and trying to partner with the anglers. So we just need more people to get involved, and but if anyone wants to be involved or organize these groups or anything, just message me, and we'll figure out a way to do it.
Good. The Waterbird Habitat Project.
Yes.
Andrea Willey, thank you very much. Time's just about up. We didn't really have a chance to talk about extraterrestrials or flying saucers, but this has been eye-opening for me.
Thank you.
And I hope what we'll do is I'll put a link in the podcast body where you can click right and get right to the website and find out how you can volunteer or what you can do and what the issues are.
Yeah, thank you.
With this situation, I'm going to ask for a supply of these because I'm at the river every day almost.
Thank you.
I'll approach even though they may not like it, I don't care. I'll approach the anglers and
thank you.
Gently tell them to pick up after themselves, because we want to at least try to reduce the amount of animal fate, not just birds, but animal fatalities.
And if you see a place that needs a sign on a receptacle, just message me and I'll try to make that happen.
Just text you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Or email.
I got your number.
Yeah, thank you.
Cool.
Thank you, Doug.
All right. Well, we'll wrap up this episode of the Alien Pro Podcast. You can catch us on all podcast platforms. Wherever you get your podcasts, we're there. Rumble, Patreon, and YouTube. Like and subscribe. Thanks again, Andrea, and we appreciate it.
Thank you.
If I can find my... good thing I got editing, because I can't get my thing to stop. There you go.